For Sunday, January 11th, you've found the Georgia Gang. And topping our agenda today, the legislature comes back to town and they'll be dealing with the fourth penny. The Mercedes USA headquarters is coming to Atlanta, and Mayor Kasim Reed fires the fire chief. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
And we're certainly glad you could be with us on this cold day. We are geared up for the return of the General Assembly to Atlanta. We also have the swearing in for a second term of Governor Nathan Deal, all that taking place this week. And we're going to look ahead now to what the General Assembly might be considering. Phil, transportation is the word. After 8 years of Sonny Perdue, 4 years of Nathan Deal, now we seem to be focused seriously on transportation.
Yes, we are. And that was quite a news conference that House Speaker Ralston had the other day, where he also chimed in and said, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do it.
Okay,
Well,
that's
and
not
I
real
make
encouraging.
I make the remark about the fourth penny because we have a 4-cent gas tax, and 3 cents of it goes to actual transportation. The fourth penny just goes into the pie. It goes into the stew of government.
Yeah.
And clearly, that's not what the law intended. It should be going to transportation.
That's exactly
That's an
right.
easy fix, Jeff.
It is
But
an
it
easy,
doesn't
it's an
raise
easy
a ton
fix.
of
It
money.
just doesn't raise a lot of revenue. And, you know, now that Barack Obama's economic policies are producing these terrific gas prices around $2 a gallon almost. I saw $2.11.
No, his gas price is $4 a gallon. Don't ever forget it. He is a $4 a gallon guy. Private enterprise got us down to near $2 a gallon, which is still 16 cents higher than when Barack Obama took office.
He digresses.
Yes, he
But
does.
anyway,
And
I just can't let you say that.
he mischaracterizes.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Because the price of gas is down, obviously the taxes collected from it go down as well, and so
That's
it's
right.
just not a big. It's
Yeah.
not, you know, but it's something that we can do easily, should do, and should have been doing all along.
No, wait, what are you saying, the fourth penny?
The fourth penny.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I think there's going to be more, Alexis.
Yes.
I think there's probably going to be either a higher gas tax or some adjustment in it to prevent those drops when the price
Right,
goes
when the price
down.
goes down.
Phil, you said your outfit, Insider Advantage, has done some polling.
Well, that's right. They did it for Fox 5, and it's very interesting. Let me run some numbers down, and it relates right to what we're talking about with transportation and a possible tax hike. First of all, the question on both, would you raise the gas tax to pay for transportation infrastructure? Would you raise the sales tax? Those numbers, unsurprisingly, did not go over well with Georgians. Now, the question that did rate some interest is phrased this way. How about a 1 cent sales tax hike as long as there's a corresponding property tax cut? Now, 54% of respondents said we would go with that. 26% said no, and 20% were undecided. That's
What
where
was
they
the
could
number
hang
on the
their
gas
hat.
tax? Is there a number on the gas tax increase?
It was over half were opposed to just a flat increase. I think they're playing with fire if you're trying to have a tax increase right now. I know, Jeff. Yes, thanks to private enterprise, the gas prices are down, but I think we got to be very careful. I think proponents can hang their hat, though. There's got to be a corresponding cut. You know what was interesting? Let me throw this out. This surprised me the most about this poll. The poll ranked the top 5 issues of interest to Georgians. Number 1 was education. Now, that's not surprising. It usually is over the years. But number 2 surprised me, ethics. Number 3.
Oh, we just had an election.
Well, yeah.
Well, and it had 3 years of scandal over the ethics
Well, and that may
commission.
have been part of it. That's right. Crime was 3rd. Now, that's starting to creep up in people's mind. Other was number 4.
Okay.
And 5 was transportation.
Well, that is interesting too, and perhaps the lower gas prices might have had something to do with that as well, with the transportation falling down in terms of priority,
sometimes,
because people
Alexis,
are able
we
to fill
forget.
up their cars now for $30 as opposed to $60.
Right. But we forget, we all deal with congestion here in Atlanta, but the rest of the state really doesn't care.
Yeah, you might want to inform a more enlightened group of folks.
Yeah.
Or poll a more enlightened group here.
The lower gas prices.
Or separate metro areas.
let me
from
write
the
that
rest
down.
of the
Yeah,
state.
you should do that.
Well,
Yeah.
let me say this. The lower gas prices represent the biggest tax cut most people are going to get. I mean, it really is. It's a
Right.
huge thing. It has to do with American free enterprise, fracking, all that sort of thing. And we're going to talk about the Keystone Pipeline later, but the president says he's even going to veto that. But the congestion notwithstanding, the state had a big win this week with Georgia getting the Mercedes USA headquarters away from New Jersey. It's 800 to perhaps 1,000 jobs at some point. Mercedes said they're coming here because of the lower tax environment. Now, Phil, the sites they're looking at, especially those in Sandy Springs, and probably some of the worst congestion in Metro Atlanta. You could have a big, beautiful Mercedes and not ever be able to air it out.
Well, the city of Sandy Springs, where I proudly live, is going to work on that. It has given them some incentives. It was a great team effort, by the way. The governor's team, of course, Chris Carr with economic development, the mayor, Rusty Paul. I know that Dunwoody didn't get it. I know you're bitter about that, but we're going to give them some infrastructure.
Well, it's going to take a lot of infrastructure because, you know, I don't leave the office till about 6:30 because of the congestion.
That was, that was quite a coup, though. What is it, up to 1,000 jobs?
Right, and that is great. And it also, you know, what was beneficial is the fact that they have a manufacturing plant over in Alabama, and so that was another incentive to get them to move south. So I think that was a good hit for us.
Well, it was a big deal, and it continues the sort of the work that Governor Deal has done and emphasized since he's been governor. But this is a big one, the symbolism of it. And Mercedes, as I understand it, wants a highly visible location near an interstate where it can put that big three-pointed star. You know,
Right.
that's kind of cool.
That's very cool.
Get some visibility. When you go to the airport, you'll see Porsche with their new track, Porsche,
Right.
and all that. Now, the other big story this week coming out of state government came out of the blue to me, was the decision by the Board of Regents and the Chancellor, Hank Huckabee, to merge Georgia State University and Georgia Perimeter College, making it the largest university in the state by far.
54,000 students all
Is that what the number is,
combined. That's what they're saying.
54,000?
That's what they're reporting. Yeah.
As most folks know, GPC has several campuses around the metro area. And I'm for it in the sense that it reduces bureaucracy and middle management and all that. But I don't know how you merge the missions of Georgia State, which is a research institution, and GPC, which is an access institution, providing access to college for just about anybody.
But Dick, they did that successfully over in my neck of the woods, Augusta. You remember we had a merger a year ago with a giant research medical institution, the Medical College of Georgia, along with Augusta State University, which a lot of the students from around there came. So that was the model for this one. And, you know, it used to be 35 institutions in the university system. Now it's pared to 31. So we are saving costs. I just wish we could now hold the line on tuition.
You know, Hank Huckabee has been talking about doing for a long time, I think ever since he's been chancellor there. And something that the regents have gone along with, and it does bring some economies of scale. I think the way that you go about that, and I'm obviously no expert, is you know, you've seen this model where, you know, Emory University has Oxford College and so on and so forth, and large research institutions have smaller institutions within them that may be, you know, have their own branding, their own name, and their own mission. And that's probably the way they're going to set this up if the objective is to keep a 2-year program within Georgia State University.
Well, I heard the
I think that part of the move is to do that, to prevent these 2-year colleges from wanting to become 4-year institutions, which has happened all over the state in the last 25 years since
Well,
they
one
first
last thought on this.
started having them.
One last thought on this, Alexis. I heard Hank Huckabee say that Georgia Perimeter College's graduation rate is 16%. Now, I don't know what that means. It sounds awful. But does that count the kids who go on to 4-year institutions? I don't know. And I meant to look that up.
It probably doesn't. It probably means that you go to Georgia Perimeter College for a year, right? And you get you get a good grade point average and the Hope Scholarship, and you transfer someplace else. So I don't, you know, when you're looking at a 2-year college, to look at a graduation rate just doesn't seem to me all that.
All right,
Right, and they also could be there and they get a job and they quit and they go to work.
All right, we'll see how that shakes out when we see the details. When we come back, the city of Atlanta is officially a deadbeat. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at myfoxatlanta.com.
My parents always taught me to pay my bills. Apparently that lesson hasn't gone to Mayor Kasim Reed and the Atlanta city government. This week the city missed another multi-million-dollar payment to the Atlanta public school system for proceeds from the Beltline tax reduction. It now means that the city owes the schools $13.5 million. That's a lot of money for education. And I know that they're negotiating it, but Kasim Reed this week attacked the city council president, Caesar Mitchell, for simply suggesting, let's work something out.
I know. I think that Caesar Mitchell did the right thing to try to promote a compromise. It's been stuck. Jeff, you and I have tangled over this. I argue a contract is a contract, but there has to be compromise. Everyone agrees there's got to be some give and take, but the city has to come off the dime. And on city council, I think...
Well, they have to come off the 13.5 million.
Well, that's right, not the dime.
You all make it seem so simple. Caesar wrote an op-ed in Maria Supporter's blog and the Supporter Report, and it's a good piece. He's concerned about this issue. He's concerned about education. We are all concerned about education. But in that piece, he said that, it's undisputed that the city of Atlanta owns this money under the current contract. And if you're a lawyer, he's right. But if you look at the spirit of the contract, it's just not there. And I don't see why it is APS's public position that they'd like to bankrupt the Beltline.
But can't we work on a payment plan?
Why? No. And don't talk to me about a payment plan.
We could go to Aaron Rents.
Go to Aaron Rents. There was a percentage that was agreed upon, and they put it in the contract in the IGA as if it was a
dollar amount.
As a dollar amount. And clearly, the revenue projections, the tax projections didn't come through. And it seems to me that if you're APS, you enter into this kind of, if you're APS, you enter into this kind of agreement because you want to give the Beltline the opportunity to invest and grow and produce future tax revenue. That was the objective.
Are we saying then the Beltline is a house of cards?
No.
Let me tell you what the Beltline is. It's the future of the city of Atlanta. I mean, you just called it, the Beltline to nowhere. It's the Beltline to prosperity. It's the Beltline to urban renewal. It's what sets us apart from every other urban center in America right now.
Well, Jeff, let's just point this out, though. There's got to be a compromise. You would agree with that. And now, Councilwoman Archibald, there's going to be a debate on city council.
I agree that there has to be a compromise.
Not be so angry about this.
I think that there has to be a compromise, but I think that APS needs to go back to the original reasons why they agreed to this in the first place, why they agreed to participate in this, and whether or not they're going to hold this over the Beltline. It's not so much over the city, but over the Beltline and the Beltline's growth and ability to invest going forward, when it clearly isn't in keeping and consistent with the spirit of the
I want to
agreement.
change the subject, but it occurs to me that 13.5 million being held back from the Atlanta Public Schools is money that could be used to buy a lot of erasers to change standardized testing forms.
Oh, stop. That's so ugly.
Right. Now Kasim Reed was angry at Caesar Mitchell, and one of the lines he said, well, that's why he's not the mayor. Then Kasim was mad at Kelvin Cochran, the Atlanta fire chief, a distinguished guy who was the top firefighter in the nation. And he fired him noisily and angrily. It was ugly the way that thing went down. And I guess it's because he had a meeting with the chief, and the chief was defiant.
Well, the chief pointed out that he's a very dedicated Christian, and he wrote the book, This Is What Caused the Controversy, and he laid out Christian principles, including homosexuality is a sin. Well, of course, that everybody hit the roof in the gay lobby and the mayor's supporters. Now, the mayor suspended him. I would have thought that maybe after the suspension, the mayor, in the spirit of Christian brotherhood, would say, look, come on board, let's move on, you are a great fire chief. But then he got angry, and it caused a firestorm politically. In fact, State Representative Christian Coomer said, the mayor's anti-religious, he's anti-free speech, and of course, there he was.
That's terrible. And you are mischaracterizing, too, what you're calling Christian values, that homosexuality is a sin. That's an interpretation that not all Christians agree on. So, and the main point that the mayor made was that it's fine for you to have your opinions, it's fine for you to have your standards, but you cannot do it in your position and impose your personal opinions on your employees.
Well, the problem was his distributing the book. distributing his book
Exactly.
in the fire department.
Well, exactly right. I mean,
that's
that was,
the problem.
That was the
That
problem.
was a serious
But that-
problem.
that could have
But
been-
again, holding these views in a public way, when you have to manage and lead a diverse group of individuals.
Jeff, you
I
got to be
just don't
very careful.
understand
You
how
got to
you
be
can
very
do that.
careful. I'm not unsympathetic to what you just said. However, you've got to be very careful with lawsuits citing religious discrimination. And I think the chief has an excellent lawsuit there.
I disagree
Well-
with you, and I don't
Well,
think
the
he
problem-
does.
I
Because
hope that as CEO of Insider Advantage, you don't go out discriminating against people who may have an alternative, a lifestyle different from your own.
Well, I understand that, but you've got to be very careful, and the lawyers will tell you this. If someone has their First Amendment right to an opinion, I do agree on the book. I think that merited the suspension. I just don't understand why he was fired.
Well, at least he wasn't selling the book like that fellow was doing in the DeKalb County Public Schools a few years ago. He wrote
Right.
a book and then was selling it to the employees. Kelvin Cochran was just distributing it. Just kind of my last word on that topic. It's amazing to me that we've had 2014 years of Christianity, and before that, the long history of the Old Testament. And these were established values that Cochran's espousing. These are established values for thousands of years. And now, just in the blink of an eye, you're fired for thinking that homosexuality might be a sin or a perversion.
It's not- you're not fired
another
for thinking
established
that.
value for
You're-
2014 years is do not judge.
Well, that's
what?
come on.
Judge.
We all have value judgments, and even Jesus said, "By their fruits you shall know them." So come on, this is the post-secular.
Well,
this is the secularization
the book also
of America.
says slaves obey
now
your
you've
master
gone to
too.
preaching.
Come on.
Yeah,
So, there's a lot of stuff that
proselytizing.
was good then and not so good now.
All right, when we come back, it's going to cost you a little bit to see the Falcons lose. We'll explain it in just a minute.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at myfoxatlanta.com.
When someone tries a new business model, there's always a little bit of shock, and I think that was the case in Metro Atlanta this past week when the Falcons announced what the personal seat licenses will cost to buy a seat in the new Dome Stadium that Arthur Blank is building. $45,000 paid up front per seat just to buy the seat.
But you can't pay
Between
it
the-
over 3 years.
Over 3 years,
If you
yes.
want
Did you see they also had an 8.5% interest rate attached to that?
And that's-
8.5%? Wow.
Wow.
But anyway, $45,000 just for the right to buy. That's Jimmy Carter type interest.
Oh, please.
But they had, $45,000 for seats around the 50-yard line, and then $9,500 for seats up higher or elsewhere. That's a shock. Now, it's common practice in the NFL. Let's be fair to Arthur Blank. But it's just a shock.
It's a shock.
I mean, you consider how bad the Falcons have been most of their tenure in Atlanta since 1966.
They got to get to winning.
Would you pay $45,000, then pay for the seat on top of that?
The seat in front of my television is actually pretty good.
Indeed.
It is.
But I guess if you are able to write it off as a corporate marketing expense, then, why not?
Okay, well, I think that's it, but they better win.
Yeah, they need to win.
The 2014 season was not a good indicator for the marketability of $45,000 seat licenses.
Yeah, but they might want to come to see the winning teams who are coming in to play them.
Well, I wonder if you get, do those seats, do you get tickets to monster trucks and stuff like that too? Or motocross?
You're straining on that
Or
one.
motocross?
You think that might make it worth it?
All right, let's switch to the politics of Washington because our Congress was sworn in this week. Johnny Isakson, now the senior senator from Georgia, has got a new nickname. I like it. It's called Johnny Two Chair because he'll be the only senator to chair two committees, Veterans Affairs and Ethics. David Perdue kept a campaign promise, introduced a term limit measure. Won't go anywhere,
Right.
but he did do that.
Does he realize that Johnny Isakson is running for a third term?
Oh, well.
Like I said, not going anywhere.
Okay.
And both the new senators continuing the practice of Saxby Chambliss and Johnny Isakson. Perdue and Isakson, in this case, teamed up to support the building of the Keystone Pipeline. I thought that was interesting, the two working in tandem. And before people could even get the Keystone Pipeline words out of their mouth, came word that President Obama says he'll veto it.
Well, he
Where's
said
the
that all
bipartisan
along.
work? Where's the
But
bipartisan
he
effort?
said that all along.
That's another
So
one.
And you
there's
know what?
nothing new.
His usual allies, the labor unions, are furious with him. This is a jobs bill.
But it's a temporary jobs bill. That's the problem.
You've
with
always
it.
been in favor of temporary jobs in Atlanta.
Well, when we had the Great Recession, thanks to George W. Bush, yes,
Are you
we
still
needed
peddling
those.
that line?
Well, and now we also had, in the House, we had an interesting situation in which a lot of the more conservative candidates had said they would not vote for John Boehner for Speaker. Two of those were from Georgia, Jody Hice.
3, actually.
Was it 3?
There was Jody Hice, there was Barry Loudermilk, and there was Rick Allen. And they're getting a lot of heat, Dick, and all of you have seen this over the last couple days. They're
Oops.
accused of being flip-floppers because they all say in November. Now let's think of the politics of this. In November, they verbally said, no, we don't want Boehner as Speaker. Then the other day, when it came time to vote, they voted yes. And so everybody's asking, why are you doing this? And you might also say, what is the smart politics here? The Speaker of the House, which controls your committee assignments and your bills, isn't going to be happy with you either way.
Right, that's right. But
Well-
he did take punitive action against some of the folks who
voted
voted
against
against him,
him.
and they were
Yeah, he's not going
25.
to be happy with you either way, but he's going to be very unhappy if you vote against him.
Right.
And then,
You will be a seat warmer and nothing
speaking
more.
of uphill fights, Rob Woodall, the congressman in Gwinnett County, reintroduced the fair tax, which is a favorite among conservatives.
It is.
And,
Well, I think among the American people,
I
the
do
polls
too.
show
Absolutely.
it's the American
Absolutely.
people
But
like
it's
this.
such
We
a
need-
regressive tax, though. I
Well,
don't
yeah,
It
there are
abolishes,
ways-
it abolishes the IRS, and it's a national sales tax.
I think that there are ways to make it far less aggressive by exempting the first, $50,000, $75,000 of income. But there are ways that we
You've
can work
always
with that.
been
We
a
have a
fair
very
tax guy.
complicated,
Well-
complex tax code. It probably stands, I don't know, 6, 7 feet tall if you were
Yeah.
to put
Yeah,
all those pages
6,000
together.
pages.
Right.
And it's time to do something
but
about
it needs a complicated solution, not something
But
so
we're not going to
simple.
get anywhere near it as long as Obama's in the
You
White
know,
House. We gotta get out
one
quick.
last footnote real quick. Did you see where Sam Owens, the Cobb County Commission chairman, has gone ahead and hired a deputy?
Not Sam
No,
Owens.
no, no.
Excuse me, Tim Lee. He took over from Sam. I wish Sam was back there in a way. But Tim Lee hires a deputy chairman, I guess, to help him deal with the media
And everything
constituents.
else.
and everything else, constituents and press work. Why can't he do that himself?
How about a clone?
Yeah.
All
Let's
right.
get one of
You
those.
gotta- when we come back, you can
Let's
beat
do
up
one.
on him because the next segment is winners and losers.
Time now for this week's winners and losers.
All right, we're told we're going to have to speak quickly, so I will go to you, Jeff.
All right. My winner is going to be Keith Parker, CEO of MARTA. There was a State of MARTA address that he delivered last week. And I'll tell you, in the 30 years that I've been in Atlanta, MARTA has never been in better shape. It's got money in the bank. It's got reserves. It's expanding for the first time in 30 years into Clayton County. It's got a great relationship with Martok over in the General Assembly, and it's got a great leader in Keith Parker. It was also announced there that his contract is being extended for 2 years, and so that's a good thing for MARTA, a good thing for CEO Parker. My other winner, Phil Kent. He's been named CEO of Insider Advantage. Congratulations for that. He's going to oversee that polling firm and all of its media activities.
He's going to do real work
congratulations.
again.
Yeah, I bet that.
Thank
A
you.
real job.
Thank you.
Phil, go to you.
Well, thanks. And by the way, a shameless plug, I also publish James Magazine that all of you have, and you can find out more on insideradvantage.com. So, but thank you all.
Look who's on the cover, Tim Lee.
Tim Lee.
Next to Elaine Boyer, is that?
My loser, Tim Lee, over in Cobb County. You got to be the winner, of course, Sandy Springs. We're all excited for the Mercedes, and of course, the governor and his team. And you know what? The Punchline may close over in Sandy Springs. I understand the city fathers are going to struggle to keep that open.
I'll take it off there. Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to salute President Obama once again for suggesting that everyone can go to community college for free if you're willing to work for it. And he wants to work with the Congress to figure out how to make that happen. And that would provide post-secondary education to everybody so that America can maintain its competitiveness in the job force.
Yeah, he is the president of free stuff. I'll guarantee you that.
Well,
free this,
and free
that.
important stuff too.
There's no such thing as free.
Well, education is the number one thing, right?
Well, do you have is that all you
That
have?
I'm going to stop there.
All right. Well, I want to salute the Atlanta Hawks, who have won, I think it's 20 out of 22 going into Friday night.
Amazing.
Went down there to see them beat the Memphis Grizzlies this week. It was a great experience, 17,000 people on hand. I don't know what that now infamous memo was about, but I can tell you it is out of date. It was a terrific night in Phillips Arena.
A source told me that you were seen on the kiss cam that night with a woman.
I was, the woman who fortunately is my wife. Oh, and John Smoltz into the Hall of Fame of baseball on the first ballot. Good for him. See you next week on the Georgia Gang.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing on today's program.